This is TWiT.
We joked, we had a funny around the fact that we weren't going to talk at all about Elon Musk.
Okay.
And then this week, I wish I could say the same.
But you can't.
But I can't because he went and bought Twitter, apparently.
Wow.
Or he's in the process of it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Elon Musk today. Apologies if...
He loves it, so...
He loves it.
We're not apologizing to him.
It's part of the reason why he does these things. I'm pretty convinced of that. Joining us to talk about all of the action that's happening with Elon Musk, with Twitter, even Tesla, all that stuff is Faiz Siddiqui from the Washington Post, who actually reports extensively on all things Elon Musk. Welcome to the show, Faiz.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to get you on today. So we've got, I mean, this interview could go in a million different directions because I feel like just this week alone, there are like 20 different kind of tangential kind of stories related to Elon Musk, Tesla, Twitter, and everything. Let's start with the deal, though, just to kind of set the stage here. What are the important details around this deal that was announced earlier this week? What's expected to happen when this is all buttoned up?
So Elon Musk is buying Twitter for $44 billion. He disclosed last week that he had lined up the funding. About $25 billion was financing from banks, including Morgan Stanley. Around $21 billion was equity financing, meaning he was going to put his own Tesla stock on the line. Of course, the deal comes in just under that total at $44 billion. It's expected to close later this year. And it sort of remains to be seen what might happen as far as seeing his agenda through. He's laid out a pretty extensive agenda, and whether that might mean executive shakeups or any sorts of immediate changes remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think that's one of the questions that I have is, if it's by the end of the year or later this year, whenever that is, not immediate, does he still have, though, in the interim, some sort of influence over the machinations happening behind the scenes at Twitter? What is your take on that? Or is he pretty much on the sidelines just tweeting his thoughts as he goes along and hoping that they take up his recommendations, whatever they may be?
Well, he's certainly not relegated himself to a sideline role, and it seems like Twitter as a workplace right now seems to be a bit at his mercy. I mean, he has directed criticisms at some top Twitter executives that obviously led to some concerns about, how he would wield his influence, because obviously Musk's criticisms, though they are criticisms rooted in the work of the executives, it unleashes this barrage of other scrutiny, but often harassment too. So, I mean, he does wield a tremendous amount of power, even from the outside. One other thing I'll point out on the deal is that there's a $1 billion breakup fee. So if one of the parties decides to walk away, such as Musk, that's the cost.
Interesting. Touching on that real quick here, prior, what you just said as far as him tweeting out, kind of calling out the Twitter executives on the platform. Has he made any sort of follow-up reaction to what happened, this like pile-on effect? I mean, he has to understand and recognize that when he says things like that, it's going to result in any number of people targeting and harassing and going down that road. And he's not making any comment about the reaction to it at this point, right?
Musk did reply to a former Twitter CEO. Basically, I believe his point was something along the lines of like he is trying to better the platform. I mean, he hasn't addressed the criticisms or the impacts of the criticisms directly and the harassment. He hasn't. I mean, when this kind of thing happens, I've been covering Musk for a little while, and it's kind of rare to see him walk anything back.
That's part of what makes him so, an interesting figure to follow along, for better or for worse, right? There's always it's almost like he's always teetering on the edge of controversy, if not diving full board into that pool. So you certainly have your hands full covering Musk all the time throughout all of that. Now, you quoted Ross Gerber in your initial piece announcing the deal or reporting on the deal, who essentially said that this deal makes Musk more powerful than some countries now. What exactly is he talking about there? Is that just the power that comes with controlling Twitter as a platform that we've seen in previous years and recent years to be a very heavily used tool in political, communication and negotiation, that sort of stuff? Or does that involve his combo effect of, he's got Twitter, or eventually he will have Twitter, Tesla in the automotive space, SpaceX, everything combined. What is your take there?
I think it's much more the latter. I mean, Tesla is the most valuable automaker in the world right now.
Yeah.
SpaceX, as Gerber pointed out, is not only trying to put people on Mars, it's also a strategic asset for the United States. I mean, it rejuvenated the space program. And now Twitter, which Musk sees as the de facto town square, I mean, for all of its faults, it is where a lot of the world's most powerful go to disseminate information or even engage in debates or troll each other.
Yeah, it's become a big time platform for reaching the press, like almost going directly to the press or going around the press in order to communicate your agenda or your opinion or whatever. So very powerful there. How is all of this news throughout the course of this week impacting Twitter shareholders? Like what about the Twitter stock? I mean, obviously, ultimately, this means that Twitter goes private. But what about in the meantime? How are they responding to this?
So there's been a bit of hedging, seems against the possibility that, look at it this way. Shareholders have a standing offer of $54.20 for, the outstanding shares in Twitter. And so any trading below that price is a bet that, it's better to have that money right now, hedging against the possibility that it doesn't go through. Or just generally, saying like, I need to get out of my position. Mm-hmm. The stock has reacted maybe as one might expect with a deal involving Musk. It's also reacted somewhat inversely to Tesla. Tesla sank by $100 billion. Twitter seemed to do fine that day. The following day, Twitter sank and Tesla was relatively stable.
Yeah, like when I think about those fluctuations, I'm reminded of Dorsey and the criticism of, Dorsey's got his hands in too many different major projects, right? We need him to peel back and focus things. Meanwhile, here you've got Elon Musk, and I mean, he's got his hands in some of the most major things and multiples, and now he's just adding more onto that. Maybe that's part of that. Now, Elon has mentioned many times, and continues to, that this has to do, largely with free speech. Making sure that everybody has access to get on and communicate and all that. I'm sure he's made comments about Twitter's recent years of clamping down, the booting of Donald Trump, all that kind of stuff. And along with that, we're also hearing about this kind of swing that's happening in Twitter follower count. Liberal accounts are losing followers, conservative accounts gaining followers. Do you what is the impact here ultimately? Like if you had to look in your crystal ball, I mean, you could take Donald Trump as the obvious example here. Based on your understanding of Musk as a person, will his words kind of line up with his actions when it comes to someone like a Donald Trump and bringing him potentially back to the platform? What do you see for Twitter in the next year or two based on what you know about Musk?
Well, I can tell you what Musk has said about permanent bans in general. I mean, he spoke at a TED conference this month, and he said he would be very careful about instituting permanent bans, and he's much more a fan of timeouts. And, when the subject of permanent bans comes up, I mean, I'm sure people can only name that one off the top of their head, if any. Sure. And so the question is obviously alluding to the former president, but Musk hasn't actually said anything specific. Yeah. I don't know, as far as whether he can he hold that over someone like the idea that Musk is a kingmaker and can just like, restore someone's profile. I don't know about that, but like, we do know what he thinks in the abstract about permanent bans like the one the former president received.
Sure. Now, finally, there was chatter yesterday that kind of alluded to, I can't remember the reporting where exactly this came from. I didn't put that in my notes, but that it was likely that Elon would ultimately back out of this deal, which struck me as kind of strange. But I don't know Elon Musk nearly as well as you probably do after following him for so long. Is that characteristic? Would that be characteristic of Elon at this point through all of this kind of buildup to eventually say, actually, you know what, I've changed my mind, or to kind of hit that roadblock where he's like, this doesn't make sense to me anymore. I'm jumping out? Or is he kind of too committed at this point to do that? What do you think?
What I will tell you is that I think everyone sort of needs to take a step back and sort of think about where we were at the beginning of April and think about how many people said, oh, this is a troll. This is one of his many stunts. And where are we now? We are now in a position where Musk has gone from being revealed to be a 9% stakeholder, shareholder in Twitter, to getting this board seat, but not getting this board seat, to lining up some financing, even though people were like, I don't know if he can really afford it, to now he's the prospective owner of Twitter. I don't know. I would say in general, we all need to be a little bit more careful about predicting what comes next.
Yeah. That is a really good reminder, right? Every step of the way, people have been going, oh, he's not going to do that. Oh, wait, he just did that. No, he's not going to do the next thing. Oh, he just did the next thing. So
I totally sympathize with you guys when you were just like, wow, we're not going to talk about Elon Musk next week.
I mean, it's just this information train keeps on rolling, but it is fascinating nonetheless. Regardless of anything, he knows how to stay connected to the line of communication that people are really care about. And right now, obviously, he's capturing a lot of attention for good reason. So you certainly have your hands full following Elon Musk. Really appreciate you taking time, carving out some time today to talk to us about it. Faiz Siddiqui, of course, writes for the Washington Post, WashingtonPost.com. If people want to follow you online, where can they find you?
At Faiz Says, Faiz Says.
Right on. Thank you so much, Faiz. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Take care.
We'll talk to you soon.